Hey everyone, my name is Jake. Today I'm just going to be reloading some 7mm STW. Now I didn't prepare a script or anything for this video, so it's going to be me rambling about reloading in general and reloading the STW. So the other day, I got some of this surplus WC 860 surplus rifle powder in the mail. This is an 8-pound keg of it. I just wanted to test it out and see how well it would do my STW, just messing around really. This surplus rifle powder is about 60, without hazmat and shipping, it's about $65 per 8-pound keg. Now from what I've heard and read online, WC 860 is a surplus powder from pulled down 50 BMG, 20mm rounds in the military. So this is a very, very slow burning powder. I've already shot a couple rounds of it through my STW, and I started at 80 grains and worked up in 1 grain increments to 89. I was kind of worried because I read online that this has each lot is different, has a different burn rate. I don't know what lot this is, but I read online the burn rate can range anywhere from like IMR 4831 all the way to H50 BMG. So as to play on the safe side, I loaded 80 grains as my first charge weight, 80.0, and that was like a max H1000 load with a 154 grain Hornady soft point bullet. So I have so many Hornady soft points, I just want to shoot them up to see, like, you know, check velocity and pressure and all that stuff. So I loaded 80 in 1 grain increments all the way up to 89 grains. No pressure signs at all. Velocity with the 80.0 grain charge was like 2560 feet per second, which is very, very slow. Then the 89.0 grain charge was about 2,920 feet per second, which means that we're getting up there. But also, on the same note, we're also getting up there in case capacity. So 89.0 grains. So this ball powder does fill the case. Probably, I think it goes up to the body shoulder junction. Yeah. So today I'm gonna load up 5 more, starting again at. I'm gonna continue on from there because I didn't load enough because I just want to see pressure. So I'm gonna start off at 90 and hopefully work up to 95 grains. We'll see if we get that far in terms of case capacity though. So the cases I'm using are brand new 7mm STW Bertram cases. These come out of Australia, and I was lucky enough to get them before they sold out for this year. These are about $2 a piece, which is very expensive. But also, you can use, which I found to work very well, are these Hornady 375 H&H mag cases, which I resize in 2 steps with annealing in between with the 8mm rim mag die set, full-length die set, and then 7mm STW die set. And I fire form them to get essentially brand new STW cases. Okay, so since these are brand new cases, they don't need to be resized, but the necks need to be expanded and uniformed. So I'm just gonna use my my Sinclair mandrel die, and I like to run 1/1000 of neck tension, which some people say that's kind of low, which it is pretty low, but I have found good consistency and accuracy with most of my rifles with 1/1000 neck tension. So we're gonna use that mandrel Sinclair 283.283 expander die. I was using a Q-tip and some Imperial sizing wax to get inside the necks. I would prefer to use graphite, but I do not have any on me at the moment. Nor have I tested it out, but apparently that's the secret when it comes to using a mandrel, is use the graphite. So I'm just gonna move up. Only doing 5 right now. Just want to see how far we can get. Okay. Expand these necks. The only time I've ever crushed a shoulder on the expanding mandrel, Sinclair mandrel die is the 280 actually improved. I forgot to lube one of the necks, and since it was a 40-degree shoulder, it absolutely just pushed it down and made a big donut. Okay, so now I'm going to try and clean out some of this lube with a dry Q-tip swab. Okay, then move over to my Frankfurt Arsenal brass prep tool here, just so I can chamfer, deburr, and case mouse. Okay. Now on YouTube, you're not going to find a whole lot of anything about 7mm STW. Why that is? Well, first part, it's not really a popular cartridge. It was a wildcat for like 5, 6 years in the 90s until Remington picked it up, and Remington produced rifles in 7mm STW for several years. It was never really that popular. It did kind of compete with 7mm Rem Mag line of chamberings, and Remington finally killed it off when they introduced their 7mm Remington Ultra Mag in 2006, I want to say. The 300 Ultra came out in 2001, I believe. But this is probably one of the only reloading videos you're going to find on YouTube talking about the 7mm STW. People complain, not complain, but people always argue, well, if you can't do what a 7 Rem Mag can do, then, you know, what's the point of going hotter or faster? Well, it's just it. It goes faster. It hits a lot harder. Oh, well, it's only 100 feet per second difference. Well, no, it really isn't. Because most of your 7 Rem Mags have 24-inch barrels, and the ones that do have 26-inch barrels still can't match what a STW can get out of a 26-inch barrel. Like, for example, factory-loaded ammo for this is usually 140 grain soft point, pushing it about 3,400 feet per second. 140 grain soft point in factory load 7 Rem Mag ammo is about 3,000 to 3,100 feet per second. But if you hand load, you can obviously squeeze out a couple hundred feet per second more. Maybe not that much, but you can definitely squeeze more accuracy potential, more velocity potential when you hand load. So like a hand loaded 7 Rem Mag 140 grain soft point, you can get up to like 32, 50, maybe 33 pushing it, but that's really pushing it. With this, a mild load of 140 grain soft point is 3,400 feet per second, but you could very easily push it to upwards of 35, 50, and the max, you max out somewhere around 3,600 feet per second before you start blowing primer pockets. Also, another thing that I do that most people disagree or debate about is what type of primer to use in magnum size cases, because people, the general rule of thumb that you read online is if it has more than X amount of grains in the case, you gotta use a magnum primer. Like if it has more than 65 grains of powder, you gotta use a magnum primer. Well, that's just simply not true, because for the longest time, essentially this is a 375 or a 300 H&H case, neck down and blown out case dimensions. And they didn't have magnum primers back in the day, so they just use regular normal large rifle primers. Primers I'm using today are Winchester normal large rifle primers. These are one of the hottest regular rifle primers that you can buy compared to magnum primers. But I really have not found any type of issue using normal large rifle primers in any of my magnums, including up to and including the 7mm Remington Ultra Mag. But I run regular large rifle primers in everything that I use. Now these Bertram cases have very tight primer pockets, which is good. Sometimes I do wreck some of my primer pockets with some of the loads that I shoot. Not blowing primers out, obviously, but I do get with some of the calibers I own and the loads I shoot, I can get 2 to 3 out of good quality cases. But if I'm loading conservatively, I can get upwards of, well, I mean, I'm looking at my 30-06. My 30-06 loads, I never lost a primer pocket. And some of my loads, or some of my cases that I use for hand loading, have gone up to, I think, I don't keep track, but 10 plus reloads. I do anneal my cases every once in a while, more so on these big magnums. I anneal my rums and my STW cases sometimes after every shot, sometimes every 2 shots. But yeah, so we have 5 Bertram 7mm STW cases primed with regular Winchester large rifle primers, and yep, I've never had a problem with ignition. The only time I've had an ignition problem was once, or twice actually, both in my 280 Ackley. Primer wasn't seated all the way, so it just didn't go off, and powder contamination in the other one with case lube. So I got 5 fully primed cases, resized, neck size to 283 diameter, case mouth, chamfer, and deburred. So now I'm gonna go on to measuring out some powder. So I like to do, since I don't really mass produce hand loads like some people do, I usually weigh out every single charge that I do. So we're going up to 90.0. Since it's really hard to maneuver these big 8-pound kegs, I just pour some powder in this ceramic cup. That's probably enough. Now this is a spherical ball type powder. This is the first type of powder that I've messed with that is spherical or ball type. So yeah, most of my powders I mess with are extruded stick, like the IMRs, Rotumbo, H1000, 4064, 4895. But yeah, I mean, this stuff meters well. I don't usually run rifle loads through my powder dispenser because I like to measure it out by hand every time, so I'm not loading a lot in one sitting. So let's just see where this gets us. So it was first charge going to be 90.0 grains. I'm just using a Lee 3.1 cc dipper just to manually pour it into my pan here. Takes a while to get up to 90. Okay. Trickle it to get up to 90, almost. Okay, that is 90. Let's case this to the back. I would use this rifle case holding tray, but the the case, the rim diameter's too large from the fit. So this is 90.0 grains. Let's see how good our case capacity is there. So I don't think we're going to be able to go up to 95 today. So 90 grains, that is right at the shoulder neck junction there. Okay, let's just keep going. So 90, 91. Now usually with reloading, usually don't jump 1 grain increments. We have to keep in mind with these Magnum rifle cartridges, a 1 grain increment is such a low percent change increase. So like for example, if you're loading a cartridge that takes 100 grains of powder and you increase it, excuse me, if you're loading 99 grains of powder in a cartridge case and you increase by 1 grain to 100 grains of powder, it's only a 1% change increase in powder, as opposed to loading like 223, for example, a one grain increase from like 23 to 24 grains is a significant increase percentage. Also, this powder is very slow burning, and there's yet to be any type of pressure signs. So I'm more than confident loading this in 1 grain increments. Okay, this is 91. Some tricks people do where they take like an old electric toothbrush and they hold it on the side of the reloading tray or the case to vibrate the kernels inside the case to settle better, which gives you more case capacity. I don't think I'm going to do that just yet, especially in this iteration of loading, because I'm just trying to find my left and right limits. Certainly found my left limit, how low I can go in terms of performance, velocity wise. Okay, this is 92 grains. It'd be impossible for me to double charge one of these cases. Just keep track of the case fill. Okay. Yeah, it's getting up there. Now we go 93 grains. I also have a keg, an 8-pound keg of WC 872, which is the slowest of the WC powders, surplus powders. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that yet, because I assumed that the 860 would be somewhat faster burning. I was kind of in my head like imagining it to be somewhere around H1000 type burn speed, but clearly it is a lot slower than I anticipated. What I can do is shoot a case full of 872 in my 30-06 for cast bullets. That's a very popular thing that people do, especially over on the cast bullet forums. Stuff like 60 grains of WC 872 and a 30-06 case with a cast bullet on top of it. Okay, so just tapping this gently because we are almost to the top. Once I see the bullet, it will compress it more. However, with such little neck tension, I don't want my bullet to be backing out. So the last one here at 94 grains might be a little bit much case capacity wise. Okay. Again, it's probably boring watching me hand trickle this powder, but I'm never in any rush when it comes to reloading. So I don't hand load a large batch in one sitting like most people do. I usually hand load probably less, on average, definitely less than 20 rounds in a sitting. Okay, so this is 94.0 grains. On my sheet I wrote down, it said the Bertram cases hold 96 grains of water. So there's 2 grains less than the total water capacity. see what happens. Okay, 94 grains. Back. See where we're at. Well, right at the top. Not quite at the top. Let me see if I can get you in close to see this. Camera's kind of in an awkward location to see, but yeah, you can kind of see in there. See how close you are to the top. Well, I'm going to gently vibrate this block a little bit. Okay, that settled it a little better. Now here comes the crunch part. Get my seating die out. Get it out. Our CBS cases are very sticky. I've never found one that wasn't sticky. Okay, my bullet seating die. Let's put that down a little ways. Get out some of these soft points I have. I have a whole bunch of them, like a couple hundred. They're just old poles with minimal marks from a long time ago. Yeah, they're just old. I don't think Hornady even makes these anymore. They're like, so they're 154 grain soft point, but not like a spire point, but not quite like a round nose. They're kind of like a, if you were to go in between a spire point and a round nose, sort of. It still has a nice taper to it, but the lead tip isn't sharp. It's like flat and dull at the end. These bullets perform okay. You know, 7mm I shot them in. Not great, but I mean they work for like these purposes of just getting velocity nodes and stuff. Okay, so let's just seat the first one, the 90.0 grain charge. Just see where we're at. Okay, that went easy. Way too long, but let's just see what we're at. I think I seat these down to where the cantilever is, because I guess I'm at my mag length of 3.6. Screw down a little ways. Okay, definitely less air in there now. 3738. This is another 360. Okay, a little closer. Definitely less air. My calipers died. I need a new battery for these. But getting closer. And I'm not measuring off the ogive. Back this off a little bit. Screw it down, back this off. I want my die floating in the press. Okay, there we go. I want these to be about 3.600. That's not my magazine length. My magazine length is a Remington 700 ADL style magazine. It has a maximum magazine internal length of 3.665, which is very long. I usually can't seat my bullets out that far because they'll hit the lands. So normally like 3.600 is like what's normally called for in most load manuals for STW. It's a maximum length 3.600. So I'm 25 thousandths long. Come down a little bit. It's messed up. Okay. 3.9 thou long. Come down a little bit. 6 thou. A little more. Okay. Your shake test. There's a little bit of shakage in there, but it's really really tight. Okay. We're 1.5 thou, so I'm gonna turn this a little bit and then lock it down. Run through one more time. Just double check. 3.600 right on the nose. Okay, so there's one loaded 7mm STW round with 154 grain Hornady soft point with 90 grains of powder behind it, and it's quite long. So that was 90 grain charged. Let's go up to 91.0. Let's see if we get any crunching with this one. No crunching with this one. And there's no shaking in this one. No kernels moving. Okay, let's go up to 92.0. See what we get. There's a little bit of compression. No shaking in this one. 91.2. This is 93.0. That was definitely a little bit of compression, a little bit of crunching there. Nothing too crazy. And lastly, the 94.0 grain charge. The most fill halfway up the neck. Let's see what we get with this one. Definitely a little bit. The ball powder is definitely easier to compress than the extruded powder, I've noticed. It's not as violent as crunching like when I load H1000 in the 280 Ackley. That has a lot of crunch to it, a lot of some more force needed to seat the bullet. But these, not as bad as I thought, especially with how full this one is. So I'm gonna get these marked up so I don't mess them up. $90. 91. 92, 93, and lastly 94. Okay, I don't have time to go shoot these today because the range is closed. It's also really wet outside, but tomorrow I am going to remeasure the case overall length, or the cartridge overall length, to make sure that I didn't get any push out, because I'm only running 1/1000 of neck tension. And I'll run the chronograph to see what type of velocity I get. Well, I think that concludes it. So today, took 5 pieces of virgin Bertram 7mm STW brass, expanded the neck, so I have a Sinclair mandrel to 0.283 inches. We chamfered and deburred the case mouths, primed these cases with Winchester large rifle primers, loaded in 1 grain increments, WC860 military surplus rifle powder from 90.0 grains all the way up to 94.0 grains in 1 grain increments, with a pulled old 154 grain Hornady soft point loaded on top. Yeah, so we're gonna go test these out probably tomorrow or the day after to get a velocity reading and just preliminary accuracy in general. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is probably one of the only videos on YouTube of someone hand loading 7mm STW, shooting times Western. I hope you enjoyed. Again, this wasn't planned or anything, it's just me just talking as I go through it. One of the first videos I posted on my YouTube channel of me actually talking or explaining anything other than me just shooting in silence. But I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions at all about my Remington 700 that I built, or 7mm STW in general, please let me know. Probably one of my next videos I'm going to make is how I go about forming STW cases from 375 H&H brass, and how I form the cases and needle them, fire form them, and get them sized properly. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.